3 signs that you're ready for high ticket consulting. So that's what we're talking about today. Last week, we talked about how to get confidence to raise your rates. And after that conversation, I began to get some feedback on that. And people were asking questions like, are my skills really ready for raising my rates? Like, do I have the skills to really validate the pricing that I want to make? Or if I do raise my prices, then what happens? Like, will my clients look elsewhere for work? Have I priced myself out of the market? Where do I even find clients who are able to pay the higher prices? Those are all great questions to start asking. And so we're going to dive into that. And this is going to be an action-packed session because we've got so much to go over. I'm going to give you 3 signs that show whether or not you're really ready to embark upon high-ticket WordPress consulting. But it's not just 3 signs. In addition to the 3 signs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each one of those down into 3 individual things. So it's really like 9 things. We're going to do like 3 chunks of 3 because there's so much to go over in all of this. So that's what I wanted to go over today, because there's so much talk about how the price is falling and falling and falling when it comes to WordPress development. And, what about all the other cheaper alternatives and Wix and Squarespace and people on Upwork and Fiverr? And, what's really the right thing to do for the client? It's one thing to say, hey, I need a certain amount of revenue to stay in business, to really make a difference for my family and for the needs that I have, that kind of a thing. But then the other side is like, well, what's really the best for the client too? And how can we match both of those 2 things up so everybody wins? So that you're doing what's best for you, you're doing what's best for your client, everybody's seeing the results that they want. And not only that, but we can even extend the winning all the way down the line to where your client's customers are actually, getting a win that they otherwise wouldn't have, because now they know about you and they know about your client because of the work that you're doing. So that's kind of the overview of where we're going to be talking, what we're going to be talking about today. I normally forget to introduce myself, and I almost forgot just then. I almost jumped into it with what you need, but I do want to introduce myself again. I'm Lee Blue. I'm the founder of DoubleStack, and the main thing that I do is I help WordPress developers and WordPress consultants make that shift from like everyday WordPress development, that low ticket, low budget kind of project situation into a situation where you're charging high ticket for your work, and not just charging high ticket, but delivering the results that come along with it. So like we talked about, so everybody wins. That's the main thing. So like if you're looking to make, somewhere between like 8 to 10, 5 to 10, somewhere in that area, $5,000 to $10,000 per month with a workload that you can handle on your own, then DoubleStack is for you. So, and the whole idea behind DoubleStack is it's a program that will, over the course of 8 weeks, shift your thinking, your mindset, the work that you do, the way that you structure your projects, the way you write proposals, the way you meet with clients, the way you find leads, the way you even generate leads in the first place. How do you actually get leads to actually schedule appointments with you? Like we go through all of that stuff. It's really in depth. And but it's not for everybody. It's clearly not for everybody. You have to have, you have to be ready for high ticket consulting. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Like, how do you know? How do you know if you're ready? How do you know if this is the kind of thing that you want to do? And so I'm going to give you 3 big picture ideas, like 3 big signs to know whether or not this is for you, so that if it is for you, you can actually have a checklist of what you need to do, how you can get started, and what's going on. And if it's not for you, but you want it to be, then what you need to do to get ready, or you might say, hey, this totally isn't for me overall, and maybe you want to do something different altogether. So let's jump into the first thing that you have to be, and this is something that is probably going to strike you as maybe obvious, but it's one of the things that I find missing in the vast majority of people that I talk to, whether I'm at a WordCamp, whether I'm on the phone with somebody about DoubleStack, whether it's just, wherever I might be. The main thing that I find missing is thing number 1, which is you have to be committed to serving your clients with integrity. And there's 3 things packed into this thing. You have to be committed to serving your clients with integrity. So there's 3 things. And committed, what I mean by that is you can't embark into high ticket consulting if you're just kind of dabbling in it. Like if you're just like, oh yeah, I kind of build some websites on the side. It's something I do to make a little extra money on the weekends. It's, that's not going to work. And the reason that that's not going to work is you might be able to implement something like Wix in the context of WordPress. You might be able to build a few pages. It will probably look good. It'll be responsive because themes all pretty much come that way out of the box if you pick a good one. And that'll be okay, but that's not high ticket consulting because there's no emphasis on what happens after you launch the site. There's no emphasis on where do the results come from. There's no emphasis on how are you actually getting your client into the position where they're hitting the goals and getting the results that they're really counting on you for in the first place. And that's one of the big differentiating factors between like low budget projects and high ticket consulting is the full picture. Like, are you just putting together websites? Are you giving them an outcome that they could probably get on their own if they put the time into building a site on Wix or something like that? Or are you giving them an outcome that's similar to what they would get if they went on Upwork to try to find, if they made like a request for proposal and put it on Upwork? Is the outcome of your work generating something equivalent to that? Or have you put together something significantly better than that? And even to the point where your client might not even know how to ask for what you're delivering because you're giving them things they've never heard of. You're giving them access to tools they didn't even know about, or maybe they did, but they thought they were out of reach for them. But now because of you, you're leveling them up to something that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. That's the difference between high ticket consulting. And you can't hit that level if you're just kind of dabbling at it and you're not really committed and you're just kind of, well, maybe it'll be okay, maybe it won't. I don't know. It's just something that I do as a hobby. That's kind of the first thing. You have to be committed to really wanting to drive results for your clients because things change so often. There's so much to know. There's so many tools and platforms and marketing techniques. And even just with email marketing alone, there's so many different choices. Landing pages, lead magnets, sales funnels, drip campaigns, how do you organize all that stuff? And like, if you're just someone kind of dabbling at it, then it's not, you just don't pick up enough to be able to drive the impact that your clients are really counting on you for. So that's kind of the first component of, are you committed to serving your clients with integrity? So the serving aspect is also a really critical thing because you aren't just selling websites. Because if you were just selling websites, who knows if you're really serving the client? Really what they're doing is they're kind of serving you. I mean, everything's sort of flip-flopped around kind of in a funny way if you're just selling websites. Another way to think about selling versus serving is kind of envision your business and you're kind of at a booth or something like that. And you've got your table set out. And on the table, you've put these little widgets, and each little widget is one of the things that you know how to do. So there's maybe like a little widget box, everything for designing a logo, and then another one for building a website, and then another one for SEO services, and then maybe another one for hosting, and whatever else is out there. And you've kind of got your table set out, and then people are passing by the table. And what you're hoping someone will do is, oh, look, you design websites. Can you build a website for me? And you're like, okay, great. Now I've sold something that somebody wants. And so that's the idea behind selling a website. Or maybe they don't say just a website. Maybe they say, hey, I need a logo and some business cards and a website. And so now they pick a couple of things, maybe 3 things that you can do. And now you're triple happy, right? Because you sold 3 things to one person, and that's really great. And now you're going to try to do the best that you can to make the best logo and make really slick looking business cards, and the website's going to be the best that you can do. And there's nothing morally wrong with that. We're going to get to the integrity part here in a minute, but that's what it looks like to be a seller of websites, or a seller, like if you're selling your technical services, you kind of put them out on the table, you hope somebody walks by and selects some of the things that you have for sale on your table. That's what selling looks like. What serving looks like is there's nothing on your table. You don't even have a table. You don't even show up at the booth until you're confident that the people that you're approaching are people that you can actually help achieve the goals, like the actual challenges that they're struggling with, that you have the ability to solve some of those problems in a significant way that they probably can't even get other places, and that they certainly can't get on their own. Like in a way where, like if a client is coming up to you and they're telling you, hey, I need a logo and I need a website and this is how many pages I need and this is what I want it to do, you're not really serving them if you leave it at that level. Because what that means is you're assuming that they have the plan and the strategy for success that is equally as good as yours for them. And what that means is, like, let's say you're working with somebody that's in real estate. You're assuming someone who specializes in selling houses and knows how to do all that is going to be able to put together like an online marketing strategy that's equally as good as yours, which is why you're trying to say, okay, I can do these things. You tell me what to do. I'll implement that stuff for you. That's kind of what selling looks like. What serving looks like is, hey, let me help you get to another level that you would not be able to access on your own, because the expertise and the leadership that you're bringing goes beyond what your client is able to orchestrate on their own. That's the difference between selling and serving. It's also the difference between low ticket projects and high ticket consulting. Low ticket projects, you're just kind of doing the things that people ask. Like, for example, the reason why projects are so cheap on Upwork is because the structure of how that works is people show up at Upwork, and from the client perspective, they show up with a list of things that they need to get done, and then they sort of just kind of put it into this magical box, and out of the magical box pops the end result of what gets happened. And who actually does all this stuff? Who really cares, right? Is it somebody here in the United States? Is it somebody overseas? Is it automated entirely? Nobody really cares. Because as long as they kind of, get the three to 5 pages, and as long as there's, it's kind of responsive, and as long as what they ask for is kind of delivered, then great. But the difference is, what if you were able to deliver something that is better than that? Like that, not just better in terms of the quality, but better in terms of the outcome. That's the biggest difference, is the power of the outcome that you deliver needs to be significantly superior to what somebody would be able to orchestrate on their own. That's the difference between selling and serving. Because what will happen is sometimes clients will come to you, and we're going to talk about lead generation too, and later on in this conversation, because that's a huge part of this. But what will happen is, say you get a referral, and somebody asks you to do something, and you're sort of confident that you can do it. Like, you're confident enough to say yes, but you know that it's not really your forte, your expertise, like the main thing that you're the best at. But you say yes anyway, because they're in front of you, you're in front of them, and they need the help. You feel like you can do it, and so you say, well, what the heck? Okay, let's do that. But I mean, can you get a sense for how that feels different compared to, for a fact that you are the best at delivering a particular outcome, and then you give that only to the clients that need it? That's what serving is like, because that means that you're going to be the best decision they've ever made when it comes to what they did for their business. Like, hiring you is going to be the best choice they've ever made, because you're serving them at a level that goes beyond what everyone else can do. It goes beyond what they even themselves could even ask for. And sometimes it means, hey, you know what? I'm not the best person for that. Like, you might say, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what I really need you to do is run this Google AdWords campaign for me. And you've never done Google AdWords before, but you get a sense, well, maybe I could do it. So you say yes anyway. You're not going to be as good at running Google AdWords in that context as someone who had been trained to do it and has been doing it for a couple of years and has an expertise and really loves doing it and really focuses on doing that. So that's the problem. So it's okay to say, hey, you know what? That's not really the thing that I do. Let me either bring somebody else in or refer you somewhere else. Here's what I do. And then you kind of unleash the nuclear bomb of what you can really help someone do. That's the difference between selling and serving. Having the freedom to choose the projects that you work on and choose the clients that you work with, because you're only picking the ones where you know that you can deliver an outcome that's better than what they could otherwise get somewhere else. And that's what it really means to help somebody or to serve somebody. You're achieving their goals with them, as opposed to just doing what they say. That's a huge deal. And so one of the signs that you're ready for high ticket consulting is that you're committed to serving your clients with integrity. And so now let's talk about the integrity part. So we've talked about being committed, which means you have to be invested into doing this kind of stuff. The second thing is you have to have the mindset to serve your clients, in the sense that you're not just selling them things, but you're really coming alongside and serving them. And then the third thing is you're doing it with integrity. And what that means is, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with, the things that you can say yes to and feel relatively confident that you can pull it together, but it's not necessarily the best for your client. Like, you're not saying yes because you need the work and you need the money, you need the cash flow, whatever. You're saying yes because you feel 100% confident that you can just hit a home run for somebody. That's what you're talking. That's the integrity aspect of it. Now, what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying that the people out there who are, selling stuff on Upwork or whatever. I'm not saying that they lack integrity. What I'm saying is that when you approach a client, you approach them with integrity, meaning that if they only have a budget for $500, would it be better, or maybe they have $1,000 budget, something like that. Can you do a better job for $1,000 or for something low priced than something that they might be able to get for even half of what you're charging? Right? So for example, how many times does someone say, oh, well, I only have a small need, whatever. I'm just getting started. I only need a couple of pages, contact form. That's kind of all I need. And then you say, well, okay, I can build that and it's going to cost like $500 and I'll host it. And then the hosting is going to cost whatever it is. And then you're going to put a little maintenance plan in there to make sure you update the plugins. And so now somebody's on the hook for $20 a month too. So there's that option where it's kind of like $500 out of pocket, maybe $20 a month to kind of keep things rolling. Would that be better? Or would it be better to say, hey, you know what? You really don't need a whole lot right now. How about a Wix website? Why don't you just go over there? You can get that set up and there you go. It's free. You don't have to, there's no hosting, there's no maintenance. You can do it yourself on Saturday. That's the kind of integrity I'm talking about. Having the freedom to say either, hey, you know what? I'm not an expert in this area. Let me refer you to someone who is, or having the freedom to say, hey, you know what? You don't even have to spend any money. If you want to hire me to help you, I'll show you how to do it for $50 or whatever. And then you can kind of, build your own site. Having that's what I mean with regard to integrity. It's the type of integrity where it's okay to not accept the work or to not push somebody down a path just because you need the income or the cash flow or the clients. And instead to push them in the right direction for them in their particular situation. And having the ability, the freedom to do that is a critical aspect. Knowing how to kind of differentiate yourself. Is this the kind of a client who really needs a high ticket solution? Or maybe they're not there yet. This is the kind of client that needs something else. And so having the freedom, the liberty, and really the integrity to offer the right solution to the right clients. That's kind of the first thing. So wrapping that all up together into the main first kind of bullet point is one of the three signs that you're ready for high ticket consulting is that you're committed to serving your clients with integrity. So there's thing number one. So if you're taking notes, write down that sentence. You're committed to serving your clients with integrity. So the second thing that's critical for this is you have to stop selling individual technical services. So that's thing number two. Because if you're selling individual technical services, you're going to find three problems. And the three problems are price, results, and structure. So let me unpack that so that you can understand kind of where we're going with this concept. So if you're selling individual technical services, go back to thinking about like that table analogy where you set up this booth, and on the booth, you're putting all these little widgets of all the different kinds of things that you can do, right? So you've got branding, you've got logo design, maybe you've got photography, maybe you've got videography, maybe you can do SEO, maybe you've got, whatever it is, all the different things that you can do. And you're hoping that somebody picks, one or more of all of those services. And then you kind of say, okay, here it is. You write up a proposal and Shazam, that's the offer. Well, if that's the process that you're going through and you're happy with that process, then you're going to find you're running into three problems that probably suggest you're not ready for high ticket consulting, because you have to stop doing it that way to make the shift towards high ticket consulting. The overarching point is it is increasingly difficult. It's not impossible. Sometimes you can still get overflow work from agencies, and you can still, get some jobs on Upwork and things like that. It's not impossible to land jobs like that, but it's just increasingly difficult to find that kind of work. And it's almost impossible today to charge like high ticket rates for that kind of stuff in the context of WordPress consulting. So that's really what we're focusing on too. Like if you're talking about software development or, some other type of a platform where you're not really interacting directly with business owners to achieve like an online marketing presence for them, but you're doing something else, well, that's a different situation. But for what I'm talking about here is if you're the kind of person who is running a WordPress business kind of on your own or with a partner or two, you're kind of like either a solopreneur or like a small agency, something like that, you're reaching directly out to end clients, and those clients are in the market for attracting consumers. So I'm not talking about government contracts. Nonprofits is kind of borderline because it's difficult to articulate a return on investment when it comes to nonprofit work because they're not trying to make money out of it. So therefore it's sometimes difficult, not all the time, but sometimes it's difficult to justify, a $10,000 project for something that's not intended to generate revenue. So nonprofits are kind of on the edge, and business to business clients are also a little bit different. They're not out of the sphere of thought, but they're not necessarily ideal either, because a business to business kind of relationship, it's difficult to get a business client compared to getting a consumer client, because a lot of times the relationship that you're looking for is like the transactional cost is dramatically higher than a consumer transaction. For example, I was talking to a guy not long ago who grows turmeric in Hawaii and sells it to Whole Foods. And so it's like this multi-million-dollar contract over multiple years. And it's like a really big deal, right? And you don't win a client like that because you sent out a tweet or someone responded to, joined your email list or something like that. There's more nurturing that goes on. Now, there's still things that you can do online to nurture those relationships. But ideally, what you're looking for is a situation where you are working on it more like a business to consumer type of a situation. So, but here's the thing. So you have to stop selling these individual technical services, because if you're going to be serving clients and helping them generate the kind of, the foot traffic they need into their store, or, get more customers coming back more often, so you have repeat customers, or maybe automating some of their lead nurturing, so you're kind of saving some time on the whole process of onboarding new clients. So those types of things aren't even considered when it comes to just organizing your technical services. So like if somebody comes to you, they buy a few of the widgets off your table, and then you kind of write up a proposal that says, okay, now that you've asked me to do this, let me just kind of write down all the things you asked me to do so that we make sure we kind of, hit all the check boxes, and then I'll be able to price it out and you'll know what it costs, and then I'll do all this stuff. There's problems with that. The first problem is the price. It's very, very difficult to charge a high ticket price, because you're competing with everyone in the world. Everybody out there is doing that. That's the main thing. Like if you come across a WordPress developer, or even look at your own site, like does your own site look like a technical resume for a job recruiter, or like does your site kind of resemble that sort of booth at the marketplace where you have these individual services, you list all the things that you can do and you hope somebody picks a few of those things? I mean, that's what almost everybody does. And the problem with that is, since everyone's doing it, it's very, very difficult for your client to differentiate what it's like working with you compared to working with someone else, because everybody says the same words. That's a big problem. And so people like you and me, we might be able to look, kind of pull the curtain back and sort of look behind the scenes and see what's going on. And like, is the website going to be responsive? Is it going to load quickly? Is it going to be secure? Are people doing the SEO right? Or whatever the things is, the technical side of things, like people like you and me, we could kind of look behind the scenes and see what's going on and be able to evaluate, is one person better than another person? But your client has no ability to do that because they don't know the technical details. And that's what you have to keep that in mind at all times. You have to keep in mind the mindset of your client. It's kind of like when I go to like the auto mechanics, like I don't really know a lot about cars. And so it's very difficult for me, for example, to evaluate why one oil change might be better than another oil change or something like that. And so, or one tire rotation or whatever service that I'm going to the mechanic for, I can't really evaluate why one is better than the other because I don't know anything about it. And so and everybody's saying the same words. Like they're saying oil change, they're saying, tire rotation, or whatever it is. And so the only way that I know how to really differentiate behind it is like price. Is like, which one costs more? And then maybe try to shoot for the middle, thinking that the expensive side is too much and the cheap side is probably too cheap. So somewhere in the middle is probably the best. I don't know. But you don't want your clients to interact with you like that, because if what you're doing is packaging up all these individual services that you're asked to do, and you're kind of putting them out there in some sort of a proposal, then what you're going to find is you're competing on price with everyone in the world, which means the price is going to fall through the floor, and it's going to be a big problem. So price is a big problem with kind of selling these technical services. But so is results. Results is a big problem because generally speaking, what will happen is you'll put everything together and you'll deliver what was asked of you. But very little thought tends to go into, well, okay, what happens next? Like I've launched it all, I built all this stuff. What do we do now? And more times than not, the answer is, well, I just hand over to you what you've asked for. Maybe I'll give you a training session so you can blog on your own or kind of update your own site. But then I got to go and like find another client because, that's just how this rolls. There's nothing else. There's no plan in place to really get the results that your clients are looking for. And when we talked about the difference between selling and serving, like serving is all about making sure that you put the road in place to help your client get to somewhere they wouldn't be able to get by themselves. And with this kind of technical service list style project, that road is non-existent. And so results tend to be all wrong when it comes to selling technical services kind of individually like that. And then the third thing that's the matter with it is structure. The structure tends to be all wrong. Because what I mean by structure is like, where's the recurring revenue? Have you given yourself an opportunity to be successful, right? In terms of like, who's going to use all the stuff you just built? Like, have you, is the structure in place to make sure that now that you've built all these tools and you've put them out there, that somebody's going to do something with it? Because it's not fair. It's not even realistic to think that your client's going to be able to do any of that stuff. Even if you're teaching them how to post their own stuff on the internet or whatever, it's like, that's nowhere near enough. And think about it like logically. It's like you've given them like what, a 3-hour lesson would be a big one. And you're thinking that 3-hour chunk of time is somehow going to equate to the years that you've spent developing the same skills. It's just not, it's not fair. It's not right. And so the structure is all wrong. And then on top of that, it's like the financial structure, like the business structure. It's like, how are you supposed to scale your business when you're constantly hunting for clients all the time? And like, how long does it take to do that? And all of that's free. Like you can't charge for hunting for clients. All that's unbillable time. And so what you need is a business structure where the majority of your time is billable time, as opposed to the majority of your time being non-billable time, like writing proposals that get rejected, going to networking meetings, getting on calls and all of this stuff that goes into the mix that's non-billable. That's like if you intend to scale to $100,000 a year. So $100,000 a year is like $8,000 to $9,000 per month on average, something like that. If you intend to do that, do you have the ability to hit that level? Like say, for example, you're selling like $2,000 sites. You're going to need to sell at least one a week in order to get to $8,000 per month. And so, sometimes you'll have to sell more than one a week if you want that $100,000 annual revenue stream. That's not a structure that you can sustain if you're spending the majority of your time hunting for the clients. It's not even a structure that you can sustain even if you got, people can't, it usually takes like 6 weeks on average to build out the tools that people need. And if you're counting on yourself being able to do that once a week, that's not a structure that you can sustain without burning yourself out and working ridiculous hours. So the business structure is a really important component to all of this. So wrapping up section 2 of the second sign of the 3 that we're going for is you have to stop selling technical services because the price, the results, and the structure are all wrong with that. And instead you need to make a shift into high ticket consulting where you can solve all of those problems. You can get the high ticket price. You can focus on driving results and you're getting recurring revenue coming in so that you have a business structure that's going to be successful for you and for your clients because you're still there to use the tools that you just built for them. So that's so that's kind of step number 2 is stop selling this individual technical services. And then third is you have to be ready to stretch outside of your comfort zone. I don't really know how else to say it, but it's like if you're going to make a fundamental shift to your business, if you're going to do the kinds of things that result in you doubling or tripling or quadrupling your revenue, that's going to stress you out. It's going to make you stretch. And when you stretch, it's a little bit uncomfortable because you do things that are outside of your realm of comfort. You're doing new things. So for example, the first thing that I suggest you do is stop doing all the things that seem like you're making progress and do the things that actually matter. Do the things that actually matter. For example, for people like you and me, it's probably really comfortable to, hide behind your blog and say, oh, I'm not hiding behind my blog. I'm content marketing, or hide behind social media and think, well, I'm reaching out to new people, but really you're hiding behind social media because you're not going to win high ticket clients from Facebook or Twitter or anything like that when it comes to your business Now, this is a huge thing, by the way, and we should talk about this at another time, but you don't need to say that the same things that work for you in your business are the things that you offer to your clients. That's a different situation. Because like I can't even tell you how many times that I've heard, well, somebody will say, well, how can I tell somebody that they need to have a big Twitter following when I don't have a Twitter following? Or they need to have a big, Facebook whatever when I don't have a Facebook group. And so the reason that those two things aren't the same is because the type of clients you're looking for are oftentimes dramatically different. So for example, when it comes, like if you're running a local restaurant, it's probably pretty helpful to have some sort of a social media following so that you can announce stuff. You can announce specials and happy hours and kind of get people talking about what's going on and, kind of build up this social frenzy about how awesome it is to come to your restaurant. Whereas if you're a web designer or a WordPress consultant, especially a high ticket WordPress consultant, the clients that you're working with, they're probably not searching around on Twitter for website developers. And even if they were, that's not you, right? Like we just talked about how you don't want to be like selling websites and bundling these technical services together. So what I'm saying is that if you were to put a lot of emphasis on, on social media, what you would be doing is you'd be throwing, casting a lot of lines in a pond where there's really no fish, at least no fish for you to catch. Whereas with your client, maybe that's not the case, right? So you don't have to say, well, like one of the things that's not a sign of being ready for high ticket is you don't have to say, I have to have a huge social media following in order to offer to build a huge social media following for my clients' clients, that kind of a thing. So anyway, start doing the things that matter. That's the thing that's really, really critical. And it's the first thing that's going to push you outside of your comfort zone. So instead of hiding behind your blog and hiding behind SEO and all the technical things that you can do and all of those types of things, what you want to do is you want to get in front of clients with your ideal clients. You want to do the things that really matter. Reach out to real people and present an offer to them that is what they need, something that they wouldn't even know to ask for, something that really means you're serving them and that you're genuinely caring for their well-being and that you're going to lead them into a degree of success that's dramatically better than anything that they could do on their own. And it feels uncomfortable because you got to get out there and interact with people like that. And so that's a really, really critical point. And it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. And you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to stretch outside of your comfort zone and start doing things that matter. So that's the first point of this. The second point is you have to take your marketing and the way that you generate leads and get on offense. Like a little while ago, I told you we were going to talk about lead generation. Well, now is the time. We're talking about lead generation. Because what you won't be able, like if you want to do high ticket consulting, you cannot stay exclusively on defense when it comes to marketing your business. I have to underscore it again. You can't stay entirely on defense. You can't always be reacting to your business in terms of the leads and the work that you do. What I mean by that is word of mouth marketing, referrals all the time, hoping somebody calls, hoping somebody finds your website, hoping you selected the right keywords and somehow the search engines are giving you the love and sending traffic your way. And 6 months later after you started that, maybe you get some leads. And you have to stop doing that. Well, you don't have to stop doing it. You have to stop relying on it fully. That's the icing on the cake. That's the cherry on top. It's not the cake itself. So like in sports, like if you were playing football or something and you only had a strong defense, you would probably lose all the games or at least most of them because you wouldn't be scoring very many points. You might score a couple, right? You might get a safety or intercept a pass and run it back for a touchdown or something. But you score so many more points with a strong offense. And when it comes to marketing, if you want to be successful at this, what you have to do is you have to get on offense with your marketing. You have to go out with an offer, present it to the people that it's intended to help, and articulate how you're different and how it's better and how this is something they haven't even thought of before. And you're giving them access to new things and you're establishing yourself in this leadership position. That's the key to getting on offense. And then if you happen to get a referral or somebody, if the person that you're working with is so happy that they say, hey, you got to work with this guy over here too, that's even better. That's great. But if you want to get to the point where it's high ticket, high revenue, and you're really doing your best work and driving the best results for your clients, you have to be on offense. You have to make something happen. You can't always wait for the work to just come to you somehow. You can't wait for it to always flow to you from agencies or from just past clients or just whatever, just friends just kind of referring each other around. You can't rely on that. That has to be bonus material. It's not the core. You have to get on offense when it comes to generating leads and to winning clients. And then the last thing is you have to charge rates that allow you to do your best work. So last week we talked about how do you have confidence to raise your rates. And we talked about that, and that's an important thing. So if you miss it, you check it out. But what the aspect of that I'm trying to draw out here is if you don't charge enough, you don't give yourself the opportunity to do your best work. So for example, back when we were talking a few minutes ago about the integrity aspect, like back in step 1 about having being committed to serving your clients with integrity. Like when you focus on the integrity part, it's like sometimes your clients would probably be better off just not paying for a website right now, just getting a Wix website. Or, something along those lines. Maybe hiring someone on Upwork for a little bit of money compared to what you really need to charge. Because if you only charge a little bit, then you can only do a little bit of stuff. And in order to make an impact for your client, especially the clients that you really want to be working with, the clients where you can really have an impact and make a difference for them, you have to charge enough to be able to do your best work. Because if you're not doing your best work, it all falls apart before it even starts. For example, you're cutting corners, which means that they're not getting the quality that they really need. Even though they're not paying for it, they're not getting what they actually need. So that's an aspect of serving your clients, like we were just talking about these 3 things. So if you don't charge enough, you're cutting corners. You're giving them an outcome that is similar to something they could have probably gotten for significantly less than what they're paying you for. Because you're probably more, even at your cheaper prices, you're probably more expensive than if they went on Upwork and hired somebody overseas, where the conversion rates are such that they can legitimately charge less and still be happy with the how the payment stuff all works out, or even free, right? So you can go onto Wix and what is it, like $13 a month or something like that for the whole thing, including hosting. That's less than it costs just to host a site, much less build out a WordPress site. So if you'll be delivering an outcome that's similar to that with these low ticket rates. Like if you're not charging enough to do more than that, that's all you can do. And so that's a problem. And then if you're not charging enough to what about after you launch the site? Like, do you have something in place to enable you to continue to do the things your client needs after you launch the site? And that's where things need to be. So for example, like in DoubleStack, the way that I help people kind of structure all of this is to create 2 parts to the project. The first part, which is the build out part, like you're creating the design, you're putting the site together, you're creating copy, a logo, whatever kind of branding materials they need. Like maybe they need some business cards, maybe they need some flyers, maybe they need some print work, whatever. Social media, like designing everything so it all looks legit and professional and it's tied together, and you're setting up the email marketing tools that people need, and you gotta know how to do all that stuff. There's a lot of technical know-how that kind of just goes into like setting the stage. But that's only phase 1, and you should be charging $3,000 to $10,000 for that initial part. It's going to take you on average about 6 weeks to pull it all together. And on average, it should be about $5,000, somewhere $3,000 to $10,000 for that part. And then once you launch the site, you should be getting clients to agree to a monthly retainer for at least $850 per month for about 10 hours per month of your time. And so that's going to be, if it's 10 hours per month, $85 an hour, that's $850. And so, one of the hours might be, keeping track of the hosting environment, right? So like you host their site and then you do 1 hour of your time, updating plugins, clearing out comment spam, managing backups, whatever you need to do, answering a couple of emails back and forth, just little things that happen just throughout the month. You don't want to send these little 15-minute invoices or whatever. So to throw an hour of your time in plus the hosting, charge $100 a month for it, and host your site somewhere respectable. I host all my stuff on Flywheel. I recommend them. You don't have to use them, but I find them they're pretty good because they handle a lot of the stuff that you need all in one place. But that's just one of the hours, right? That's like 10% of your smallest offer. The other 9 hours should be, what do you actually need to do to generate the results your clients need from you? That's the point. And that's just the beginning. So when it comes to what do you do after you launch the site, the post launch experience is you're going to be trying to get on board for somewhere between 10 to 40 hours per month. So that's going to be somewhere between like 2.5 up to maybe 10 hours per week on that one client project. And so that's going to be somewhere between like $850 up to like $3,500 per month. And that's like a really nice span. Now, obviously there's some people that go way beyond that, but don't go below that, because if you go below that, you're not going to be able to do your best work, and you're not going to be able to help your client. Like if your client can't agree for you to do 2.5 hours of marketing every week, not every day, every week, 2.5 per week, right? If they can't agree to that, what are they going to do? They're not serious about their business at that point. They're like, what are they going to do? Like how else would they spend $850 to market their business where they can get more bang for the buck than working with you on this, where you're doing all of this stuff? You know, what other options are there? What could they possibly do that's better? I mean, buy a radio ad, put up a billboard, or stick something in the yellow pages. I mean, what else are they going to do that's more powerful than what you're offering? And it's $850 per month. That's the idea behind it. And if the answer is, well, I'm not going to market my business at all, like if that's what they think, well, that's not a good client. You have to counsel them on that a little bit, because they could be the best whatever in the world, but if they're not marketing their business in any way, they're going to have a lot of problems. They're not going to be able to generate the business that they need, even if they're really good at doing their work, because they're not getting out there. And a lot of times, like I'll talk, like thing number one, like being committed to serving your clients with integrity. Part of being committed, which applies to you and to your clients, it's like, what are you doing to market your business? Are you doing nothing? Are you just waiting on referrals? Is that all you got? Because if that's all you've got, that's probably why you're not generating the revenue that you need, because you're not doing anything about it. You're not on offense with regard to your marketing. That's a huge problem. And when you're thinking through which clients do you want to be working with, part of the equation is, does my client have a commitment to their business where they're willing to actually do something about it? And again, you're not asking for a ton. You're asking them to allow you to spend 2 or 3 hours per week helping them win clients and generate revenue and spread the word about what they can do. And so that's kind of the last thing about what we're talking about here when it comes to stretching yourself out of your comfort zone or beyond your comfort zone. Is the third thing is, you have to charge rates that enable you to do your best work, because you're not actually, like I used to think that selling affordable websites was actually helping my clients, but the truth is, it doesn't help your clients. In fact, it actually keeps them stuck longer. It's keep hitting the microphone. It actually it keeps causing problems. So like if you really want to help your client, you don't just give them a little bit to make them survive. You actually give them more than they need so they get better and stronger in the future. So like if you've got a broken bone, like say you fall down or whatever, and you break your ankle and your bone's jutting out of your skin, and you've got this big problem, you don't just put a Band-Aid on it. Maybe you wrap it up for a second until you can get to the hospital. But you got to set that thing straight. You got to do all this stuff. You can't just do a little bit and expect somebody to be better, because if you just put a Band-Aid on that broken bone and then you said, oh, that's fine, that's all you need, and then you sent them off, and then they healed up like that, they're going to be broken forever. You never get better if you do it that way. You have to do all the things that are necessary to get everything back on track in the right way. So you're not actually serving your clients by selling them cheap websites. But it's scary. It's a shift. It's one of those things that stretches you outside of your comfort zone, because if you're thinking, man, I've only been selling like $1,500 sites or whatever, and now I'm going to start selling $3,000 to $10,000 projects. I mean, that's a huge, huge shift. How do I do that? That's something outside of my comfort zone. And that's the point. It's like, those are the three big things. So summarizing it up, you have to be committed to serving your clients with integrity. You have to stop selling technical services, and you have to stretch outside of your comfort zone. If you've got those three things, that's exactly what you need to shift into high ticket consulting. All of the other things are things that we can put together, we can work on together. Like all of the other, like how do you generate leads? How do you meet with these clients? How do you write proposals? How do you inspire clients to get started rather than sitting on your proposals for weeks without answering them? All of those things, like what can you even do? Like what can you actually put into your retainers so that you can fill up that 10 to 40 hours per month? Like what are the things that you could offer your clients? All of those things are things that we can actually work on together. And like I can just show you a bunch of options and things that you could be doing based on the types of clients you want to be working with. That's what the whole point is. Like what we'll do, basically, if you decide that you want to make this shift, then head over to doublestack.net/call and let's get on the phone and we'll talk about it. And one of the things that we'll do during that conversation is we'll take like this mental inventory of like all the different things that you know how to do, and then if you decide that you want to work together, I'll start loading that up with like 20 more things that you could be doing. And so you have all of this stuff, like all of these great things that you could be doing. And then we'll say, okay, how are we going to combine that? Like what combination of those services can we put together into an offer that's really going to resonate with the clients you want to be working with? And that's the beginning. That's how you shift into high ticket consulting. And you can on your own generate a 6-figure income at that level. Now, full disclaimer, not everybody I ever talk to generates a 6-figure income. It's not a guarantee, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, put yourself on a path where that outcome is possible. Put yourself in a position where as you begin to onboard more clients, that you're building up a situation that can sustain that level of revenue, as opposed to a situation where you're thinking, man, that the sites that I'm currently selling at that price and I don't have the retainers in place and I can't even do enough work. Like I'd have to work myself crazy even to get halfway to 6 figures. Like if that's what you're thinking, what I'm suggesting is let's lay a new road. Let's go on a different path that actually can sustain that degree of success. And it's not just success for you. It actually is better for your clients because you're delivering something that's so much more powerful than what they would get if they just went out on their own to try to do something. So if all of that sounds like it's good to you, like if you feel like everything we've talked about lines up with where you want to go with your business, and you feel like these 3 signs are pointing to saying, yes, I'm ready for high ticket consulting, let's get on the phone and talk about it and get you a business plan that you can follow step by step to make that happen. So head over to doublestack.net/call. It's doublestack.net/call. That's going to be my personal calendar. And just pick a time. Like I try to make as many times as I can open for this because it's so much fun to talk about, and it's such a life-changing thing because you legitimately change your life, you change your clients' lives. Like what about all of the other people that are impacted by this situation? Like what about your spouse and your children, your family, your free time? It's like, what about all the things that you're sacrificing and it just doesn't seem to be paying off, but yet you know that you can do this? So that's the point of those calls. That's why I do it for free. That's why I like doing it. It's so much fun. So head over to doublestack.net/call, pick a time that works well for you. And then right after you pick that time, you're going to see a second screen that has an application on it. And so fill out that application. It's going to ask you for your website, if you have one up, just a little bit of information about like who you work with, what kind of clients you have, what's your past experience, just so that when we get on the phone, I am primed and ready to go for that conversation. So there we go. That's what we got. 3 signs that you're ready for high ticket consulting. If those signs seem to be pointing in the right direction for you, head over to doublestack.net/call, schedule a time, and we'll get on the phone and talk about it. If you have any questions, if anything comes to mind, feel free to drop those in the comments over there, and I'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. So we get together here at 2 o'clock Eastern time every Tuesday for a live workshop. So check you out then. Also, don't forget the podcast is available if you want to grab this on the go. And there we go, guys. Awesome seeing you, and look forward to catching up again next Tuesday.